Hello ladies and gentlemen, Willie here. So this will be a recap from day 2 of BlizzCon. Like the last video, it's just more of an information dump if you haven't had time to watch everything that's been happening over the past 24 hours, because there's been information coming out from all different sources on the web, to news articles, Q&A panels, player-run interviews. There's just been a whole bunch of stuff, and there's a lot more positive new information that we've received. So let's get straight into it. 2.43 has been confirmed to be the baseline patch that will be used. No surprises there. However, 2.43 is only taken as an attitude towards classes, spells, talents, and I believe itemization as well. But for other areas of the game, Blizzard are going to look at them on a case-by-case basis to make it fit in with how they should have been during the appropriate period in time. No class tuning will be happening beyond this, only changes to address faction balance, like the shared paladin seals that we already know about. The whole thing is a bit of a pick and mix, as in summoning stones will be in from launch, the leveling changes from 2.3, which reduce the experience required for levels between 10 and 60 by about 30%, are due to be in from launch, and I imagine Mud Sprocket in Dustswallow Marsh would be as well. Being able to mount at level 30, which is introduced on 2.43 as well, appears as though it will be in, so that'll be good for when you're leveling your alts. However, things like nerfed or removed attunements won't change until they are consistent with the patch where that happened to them originally. So for example, in patch 2.4, Karazhan no longer needed an attunement where everybody in the raid had to have the key, just for one person to be able to open the front gate or the side entrances, and rogues should be able to do this as well. It's a bit like how Upper Blackrock Spire works at the moment with the Seal of Ascension. And when the attunements were removed, titles were also added to reward people who had done them at the appropriate period during the expansion, like Hand of Adal, for example. Guild banks are also being considered for launch at the moment. I think they would be in personally, but we'll see. There is an intention to nerf Drums of Battle in some way. Quoting from an interview that Mr. GM did yesterday, is that there is some kind of minor adjustment so it doesn't feel compulsory for everyone to do it. I was confident this was coming. We don't know exactly what way they will be nerfed yet. I would suspect the Tinnitus debuff, which was added in a later phase of TBC, which puts a 2-minute cooldown after having received the beneficial buff from drums on your entire group, which effectively kills rotating them instantly. We haven't had any further confirmation whether group swapping will be changed as of yet. Back in the day, this wasn't changed until Wrath of the Lich King. At the moment, group swapping will allow things like changing an Arresto Shaman to drop a Mana Tide for your mage group if they're arcane. And the biggest offender will definitely be regarding Heroism and Bloodlust, where you'll have Shamans rotated into your highest damage dealing groups to give them a constant rolling Bloodlust effect. Fresh has been brought up for Classic, to which we got the answer there are no plans to release Classic Fresh servers alongside TBC. However, they could be considered after a successful release of the expansion. I personally believe that they will release Fresh Classic later on down the line when there is a bit of a content drought in TBC to sort of bridge the gap and give players something to do. I don't think they'd want the release of new Classic servers to compete with the Burning Crusade. They also mentioned there is an expectation for players to divide over the Classic Era server and TBC servers, which I find pretty hard to believe really. I think the vast majority of the player base will be moving forwards into TBC, and the only real thing that would push a sizable amount of players back onto Classic would be Fresh. There's been no mention of TBC Fresh. Doesn't look like it's going to happen. We should expect layering to be back for launch, of course. I don't think there are any surprises there, and Blizzard are still going with this as their way to make the game playable when they have such a huge volume of players being thrown at it. They've said that these servers are more stable than they were early on in Classic, and they're considering increasing the capacity of individual realms, which are expecting a lot of traffic. They also mentioned there have been further improvements to layering even when it was not being used, such as the PvP cooldown, it being less abusable, no double node spawning, and a cooldown between jumping layers in general being solved. Though they are willing to make changes to things in game if they become issues, along the line of what they did with the Black Lotus in Classic by increasing their spawns. We got confirmation of how arenas will work in terms of titles and rewards. So back then there was a technical limitation of players being linked to certain data sites depending where they were playing in their region. For example, there were 13 battle groups in North America, so there were 13 rank 1 players. This technical limitation does not exist anymore, as we have seen throughout the duration of Classic, where we have region-wide battleground matchmaking. So it won't be one person as it was back in the day getting the rank 1 rewards, but a very small percentage of top players. I imagine this will trickle down to the lower tier rewards as well. Also, as far as I'm aware, there will be no rating requirement for Season 1 or Season 2 arena gear, though there will be for Season 3 and 4. They also expressed that following the initial release of the phase schedule, that they are very likely to be changing when arena seasons will launch. The new plans are to move every single season one step forwards and to have no season in Zul'Aman. So, for example, Season 1 will be in Phase 1 with Tier 4, Season 2 in Phase 2 with Tier 5, Season 3 in Phase 3 with Tier 6, so the start of Tier 6, that being Hyjal and Black Temple. Zul'Aman, which is Phase 4, will have no season, and Season 4 will be in Phase 5 along with the Sunwell. World Buffs from Classic WoW will only work up to level 63, good riddance to them. They didn't mention consumable stacking, but I'm also assuming that this will be nerfed alongside it, as that was the change that was made back in the day. In another interview on a Czech site, which I had to go through Google Translate, so I'm pretty sure some bits are off, but it says restrictions on entry to dungeons, 30 per day, have been added to Classic WoW due to frequent misuse of shoes. Well, I guess we've been abusing shoes for too long, the day was going to happen eventually. But it goes on to say they are considering raising the dungeon cap limit per day due to TBC dungeons being shorter. Wrath of the Lich King is of course on the table. I'm sure the developers knew they were going to be asked that as soon as they said they would do TBC. Very much in the same vein as how Brack was asked whether TBC would be a thing when they were releasing Classic, and we got the exact same answer. If it goes well, yes. Personally, I think as soon as they announce TBC that Wrath is a real no-brainer to follow it up from. So in a few years to come, we'll be heading off to Northrend, there's no doubt in my mind. Other than that, they also confirmed there is no new story development or additional races, professions, or game systems planned. Blizzard want to make Classic the journey that they did back in the day and how they remember it. So Classic Plus, not on the table at this point in time. Blizzard have also expressed interest in making use of some of the elements within the retail LFM tool in the Burning Crusade version. So an actual group finder was introduced at the start of TBC, and its purpose was mainly to get chat, which was in channels that it shouldn't have been, off to the group finder instead. However, it was quite rudimentary in the way that it worked and didn't really fulfill its purpose. It may have been a different experience on your server, but myself, I don't remember making frequent use of it at all. Ever since Warlords of Draenor, there has been a looking for more tool in retail or a pre-made group tab, which people use to frequently organize Mythic Plus groups. Blizzard have also expressed that they do not want this to be akin to the Wrath of the Lich King group finder, which is what a lot of people will hear group finder and sort of panic and instantly think of that. There's no desire here to automate putting your group together, nor to teleport directly to a dungeon. It sounds as though it'll just be an upgraded version of what they were going for in TBC, which they got working very well in retail, and would just be a straight up improvement on the system that they would otherwise implement. I think about a change which has come into Classic like this, and I think instantly of the raid frames that we now have. I can't think of a single person who's saying the game has been ruined because we have Cataclysm era raid frames, which are frankly just an absolute mile better than the ones back from in the day. They are simply an upgraded version that do the job better without breaking the game in any other way than convenience. So I can certainly see them going ahead and putting this in, and I think it would be fine as well. That's it then, that's the day 2 roundup. There's been a lot more exciting news there, and I'm pretty happy with everything that I've heard actually. I feel like we have some guys at Blizzard here, particularly Brian Birmingham. I like him a lot and everything he said. He comes across as somebody who really understands the game and what kind of journey the players would want to go on that would make sense for the majority of the player base. And let me know what you think. As always, thank you so much for watching and listening in, and I'll see you in the next one very soon.